Meteorite on the 15th of February, 2000 of the 13th year. Residents of Chelyabinsk and surrounding settlements observed an unusual phenomenon. A celestial body entered the Earth's atmosphere, which was 30 times brighter than the sun when it fell. As it turned out later, it was a meteorite. Although a variety of versions of the phenomenon have been put forward, up to the use of secret weapons or the machinations of aliens. By the way, many still do not exclude this possibility. Exploding in the air, the meteorite split into many parts, the largest of which fell into Lake Chebarkal near Chelyabinsk, and the rest of the fragments scattered over a vast territory, including some regions of Russia and Kazakhstan. According to NASA, this is the largest space object that has fallen to Earth since the Tunguska Bolide. A visitor from outer space caused quite significant damage to the city. The blast wave shattered windows in many buildings. Approximately 1,500 people were injured of varying severity. But this is not the end of the series of space adventures for Chelyabinsk residents. A few weeks after the fall of the meteorite, on the night of the 20th of March, a huge glowing ball hovered in the sky over the city. It was observed by many citizens, but there is no exact explanation of where the second sun suddenly appeared, and even at night. Yet. However, some believe that the ball appeared due to the reflection of the city lights on specifically located ice crystals in the atmosphere. That night Chelyabinsk was covered with a thick cold fog. Sakhalin monster. The remains of an unknown creature were found by servicemen of the Russian army on the coast of Sakhalin Island in September 2006 year. According to the structure of the skull, the monster somewhat resembles a crocodile. But the rest of the skeleton is completely unlike any reptile known to science. It cannot be attributed to fish in the same way, and the locals, to whom the soldiers showed the find, could not identify any creature living in these waters in it. The remains of animal tissue have been preserved, and, judging by them, it was covered with fur. This find was quickly taken over by representatives of the special services, and its further study took place behind closed doors. Now most experts are inclined to believe that these were the remains of some cetacean. According to some versions of killer whales or beluga whales, but others object, and they say that with its skeleton, the creature differs from both of them. As an alternative to the accepted point of view, it is possible to name the opinion that the remains belong to a prehistoric animal, which are probably still preserved in the depths of the world ocean. Meeting astronauts with UFOs. Pioneering the self-exploration of space was not easy. The technologies of the beginning of the space age of mankind left much to be desired, so emergency situations arose quite often. Like the one that Alexei Leonov encountered when he almost stayed in outer space. But some of the surprises that lay in wait for space pioneers in orbit are not related to equipment at all. Many Soviet cosmonauts who returned from orbit told about unidentified flying objects that appeared near terrestrial spacecraft. And scientists still cannot explain this phenomenon. Twice hero of the Soviet Union cosmonaut Vladimir Kovalenko said that during his stay at the Salyut 6 station in 1981 year, he observed a bright glowing object the size of a finger, which rapidly circled the Earth in orbit. Kovalenko called the crew commander Viktor Savinik, and when he saw an unusual phenomenon, he immediately went to get a camera. At this time, the finger flashed and split into two objects connected to each other, and then disappeared. It was not possible to photograph him, but the crew immediately reported the phenomenon to Earth. Participants of the Mir station mission, as well as employees of the Baikonur Cosmodrome, have also repeatedly reported on observations of unknown objects. UFOs appear quite often in its vicinity. Russian Roswell. The Blitz missile military range of the village of Kapustin Yar in the northwest of the Astrakhan region is often found in reports of the strangest and inexplicable incidents. Various UFOs and other curious phenomena are observed here with amazing regularity. Because of the most high-profile case of this kind, Kapustin Yar was nicknamed the Russian Roswell by analogy. With a city in the US state of New Mexico, where, according to some assumptions, an alien ship crashed in 1947 year. Almost a year after the Roswell incident, on June 19, 1948. A silver object shaped like a cigar appeared in the sky over Kapustin Yar. 3 MiG interceptors were alerted into the air, and one of them managed to knock out a UFO. The cigar immediately fired a beam at the fighter, and it crashed to the ground. Unfortunately, the pilot did not have time to eject. The silver object also fell in the vicinity of Kapustin Yar, and it was immediately transported to the bunker of the landfill. Of course, many have questioned this information more than once. But some documents of the State Security Committee, declassified in 1991 year, indicate that the military has repeatedly seen something over Kapustin Yar. Nina Kulagina during the Second World War, then Nina Sergeyevna Kulagina, served as a radio operator in a tank and participated in the defense of the northern capital. As a result of her injury, she was commissioned, and after the lifting of the siege of Leningrad, she married and gave birth to a child. In the early 1960s, she became famous throughout the Soviet Union as Nina Kulagina, a psychic, and the owner of other paranormal abilities. She could heal people with the power of thought, determine the color with the touch of her fingers, see through the fabric that lies in people's pockets, move objects over a distance, and much more. Her gift was often studied and tested by specialists from various institutions, including secret scientific institutes. And many have said that Nina is either an extremely clever charlatan, or in fact, has abnormal skills. There is no convincing evidence of her quackery. Although some of the former employees of the Soviet research institutes claim that Kulagina used various tricks and sleight of hand to demonstrate her supernatural abilities, which was known to the KGB experts who investigated her activities. Until her death in 1990, Nina Kulagina was considered one of the most powerful psychics of the 20th century, and the inexplicable phenomena associated with her were designated as a phenomenon. In 1984, Soviet geologists started an ambitious project to drill an ultradeep well on the Kola Peninsula. The main goal was to satisfy research curiosity and test the fundamental possibility of such a deep penetration into the thickness of the planet. According to legend, when the drill reached a depth of about 12 kilometers, the instruments registered strange sounds coming from the depths, and most of all resembled screams and moans. In addition, voids were found at a great depth, the temperature in which reached 1,000 degrees Celsius. Some even reported about a demon that allegedly flew out of a well with a flaming inscription "I won," which appeared in the sky after terrible screams were heard from a hole in the ground. All this gave rise to rumors that Soviet scientists had drilled a well into hell. However, many of the evidence does not stand up to scientific criticism. For example, it is documented that the temperature at the lowest point reached by the drill was 220 degrees Celsius. Perhaps the best thing about the well was told by David Mironovich Guberman, one of the authors and project managers of the Kola ultradeep well. When people ask me about this mysterious story, I do not know what to answer. On the one hand, stories about a demon are bullshit. On the other hand, as honest scientists, I can't say that I know exactly what happened there. But in reality, a very strange noise was recorded, then an explosion. A few days later, we did not find anything similar at the same depth. There are not many places in our country that can compare with the Moscow Kremlin in terms of mystery, and the number of ghost stories that are often found there. For several centuries, it has served as the main citadel of Russian statehood. And, according to legends, the restless souls of the victims of the struggle for her, and with her, still roam the Kremlin corridors and dungeons. Some say that in the bell tower of Ivan the Great, you can sometimes hear the crying and wailing of Ivan the Terrible, atoning for his sins. Others mention that the spirit of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin was seen in the Kremlin, and 3 months before his death, when the leader of the world proletariat was seriously ill and no longer left his residence in Gorky. But the most famous ghost of the Kremlin is, of course, the spirit of Stalin, who appears whenever the country is expected to be shaken. They say the ghost blows cold, and sometimes it's like he's trying to say something, perhaps warning the leadership of the state against mistakes.